Okay, so I have a model here that I want to manufacture with the router. I've got two parts. I've named all of my bodies here the specific name, so I know which one's which. First thing you need to do is to move the thing you want to make into a different new design. So to do that, I'm going to select the piece that I want to manufacture. I'm going to right click and I'm going to turn it into a component. What that does is allow me to then right click and copy that component, open up a new design, and if I right click here I can paste new, and then that opens it up in this document. Okay. Right now my piece is flat. You can see that that's flat. Now if you've designed your product and it's maybe facing that way, you just need to make sure that it's facing flat when you place it in the other window. Okay, so I have my piece that I want to manufacture in a new window. The router is excellent for cutting things very, very accurately, very, very quickly, but it's also really good if you want to have multiple pieces that are exactly the same. So if you look at my model here, I've got two pieces exactly the same, but in my manufacturing window I only have one. So I'm going to click on this here till it goes highlighted. I'm going to press Command C, Command V until it, to copy and paste it. I'm going to drag that over because it pastes on top of the other model. I'm going to look at that from the top. I want there to be a gap of at least 10 millimeters around there. If there isn't a gap, if I have it really, really close like that, as the cutter comes around here, it's going to then cut into my other piece. So I want a gap of at least 10 millimeters like that. Hit OK. And I have my two pieces. That's what I'm going to cut. Obviously, you could copy and paste more if you're going to need to cut more. I'm going to come out of the modeler window into the manufacture window. As I do that, I should get a new ribbon here of different commands and tools. I'm going to click on Setup to create a new setup. As I do that, it will put this kind of green box around my two pieces. That is the material that you would need to get cut to cut your two pieces out. It's called the stock, and we'll fix the stock in just a second. What we need to fix first is this arrow thing here. Now in the router and other CNC machines like the laser cutter, up and down is Z, which obviously is right now facing the wrong way. X is left to right, which is facing the correct way, and Y is forwards and back, which is again facing the wrong way. So what we need to do is come over to Model Orientation, select Z axis and Y axis to change. If we just press the hover over this vertical line here and click that, that puts things in the right orientation. Z is up and down, X is left and right, Y is forwards and backwards. We then need to choose the starting point of where we want our cutter to think 0 is. So if we click on box point, we get a lot of different possibilities to choose. At the top of the stock, the bottom left, we click on that and we put our three arrows in position where we want to be with Z, X and Y facing the correct way. And we click stock. This helps us adjust the size of the material that we want to cut with. We've got a gap here, which is what we want, so we don't get cutters, but we've got no gaps or excess stock here at the edges of our work. Now what that will happen there is potentially when the cutter comes around, it might hit something else we don't want it to hit. So we're going to add on this side, stock side offset, 6mm, because generally that's the size of cutter we use. If you're using a smaller cutter, which I'll explain later on, you could have that at 3, but I'm going to put it at 6 because I know that I'm going to cut it with a 6mm router piece. Click OK, and that's my first setup done. Okay, so I've got my stock set up the way I want it to be. I'm now going to start making toolpaths for the cuts that I want to do. So I've got 3 cuts to make here. I've got this one here, which isn't all the way through. I've got these 3 slots, which are all the way through, and I've got the outer part, which is all the way through as well. So I'm going to start with the ones in the middle. You need to do the ones in the middle first, because if you cut the main shape out first, it's going to be rattling around. It's not going to be able to do the middle pieces. So always do your middle pieces first. If I'm going to not cut all the way through, I want to choose 2D pocket. So if I click on that, and you click the bottom of where you want the tool to go down to. So I click on that, goes blue, bottom, goes down to there, okay? We need to choose a tool, if you go to type and press flat, we always mostly have flat tools here for cutting out. You won't see this, it's just outside the window of what I'm recording, but there's an OK button here. If we click on that, you want metric, and aluminium is fine, and we tend to use 6mm cutting pieces, and you can click OK to that. Now, I'm choosing 6 as a kind of default for this video. If you have small shapes, like this is 10mm wide, if yours was 3mm wide or 4mm wide, you would need to use a smaller bit for that. But for this, it's large enough, so I'm going to use 6. You can speak to your teacher about what's best to use, but I would mostly go for the 6 unless you have very, very small pieces. You can ignore most of the rest of this. We don't have coolant in our router, so you can just disable that. Most of this you can just leave as the defaults. This one here you will need to have a look at. That's passes. We don't want to leave any stock behind, so I'm just going to untick that. But we do need to have a look at multiple depths. If you select multiple depth, what that means is every time it's gone around a circle, it'll go down a little bit more and cut some more. At the minute it's 1mm, which is quite small. We can put that up to no higher than the diameter of the tool I'm using. So I'm using the 6mm tool, so I'm going to put 6. If you're using the 3mm tool, you put 3, and so on. Right? Everything else is fine. You can just click OK to that, and it will generate tool paths for me, and you can see those there. I'm not finished yet though, so I'm going to do the rest of the other passes to do. So I'll go to 2D. If you want to cut things out, not leave some and not only go halfway through, 2D contour is what you want to use, and I need to select the bottom of the shape I want to cut out. So notice there I'm selecting the bottom of those shapes. That's the top, I don't want that. Bottom, bottom, bottom. Okay, all of those. Again, it's already chosen the tool for me, don't need to change that again, it's worth having a look though. Go to passes, multiple depths, change that to 6 again, like that. OK that, generates tool paths for that. Lastly, I'm going to cut out the outer shapes. Bottom of the shape, bottom of the shape, check it's the right tool, all good. Passes, multiple depths, 6mm again, like that. OK, and I've generated all my tool paths, so I can see everything's going to go the way I want it to go. So if I click on Setup, right click, Simulate, that will simulate everything that I want to do. If yours has toolpath selected, unselect it. It makes it easier to see what's going on. Stock, have selected, and change the material to wall paint. That's just the color that it'll be, so it makes it easier to see. You'll see the difference if you switch it to that. If I click play, it should go through all the processes that I want it to do. So depending on the depth of the cut, I only want it to go down 6mm at a time. So obviously it may make more than one pass. To do that, you can see there for that slot it makes 3 passes. So it's just going to run through that. Everything looking okay so far. Cutting out the main shape last. And that looks good. So I'm going to go to statistics. That tells me my time. It's going to take 18 minutes and 45 seconds to cut that out, so that can give me some information that I need as well. I'm happy with my simulation. Everything looks okay, so I'm going to close that. You notice maybe in before that this little kind of exclamation came up on this one. Around the simulation, everything looks fine. Generally, those kind of come up. It's normally not a problem. If the simulation looks okay, it's generally okay. So now what we're going to do is right-click on Setup and go to Post Process. What this does is it generates code, G-code, that the router will understand from here. You can leave this one as it is. This one, post-processor, there are a number of different post-processors with different types of router available on the market. The one that NIST has isn't here, but Fanuc works just fine, so you can choose that one. You can put a comment here if you want. It's not really necessary. I've put something there to help me with that. Do not change program number. You can change that in a second. Otherwise, you won't be able to click OK. It doesn't like anything other than numbers. So if you click OK, and what you then need to do, I have got the thumb drive from the router, which is generally found behind the PC, hanging on a little hook, or maybe it might be in the front of the computer. Click on that. I'm going to save my work there. At this point, you can change and save it to something more relevant to you. So I'm going to put Craig CNC project, and then I'm going to save it there. That is now saved, and I am ready to now go to the router and get going with that.